Iran just made one of the most humiliating mistakes in modern warfare, and they did it on camera. After shooting down an American F-15E Strike Eagle deep inside their own territory, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, or IRGC, rushed to social media to celebrate. They posted images of the wreckage claiming a glorious victory over American air power. There was just one problem. The images showed an F-16, the wrong aircraft entirely. And worse, the photos appear to have been generated by artificial intelligence. But that is not even the most embarrassing part. Unable to locate the missing American weapons systems officer who ejected safely and is now evading capture somewhere in southwestern Iran, the IRGC did something almost unbelievable. They posted a $60,000 bounty for any civilian who could find him. In one single day, Iran managed to reveal that it cannot control its own battlefield, cannot operate basic intelligence gathering, and cannot even tell the difference between two American fighter jets. Today, we are going to break down exactly how Iran's propaganda war just collapsed and what it tells us about the real state of their military. On April 4th, 2026, day 35 of Operation Epic Fury, the United States suffered its first manned aircraft loss to enemy fire in this conflict. An F-15E Strike Eagle, one of the most capable dual-role fighters in the American arsenal, was brought down over southwestern Iran. The F-15E is a two-seat aircraft carrying an AN/APG 82V1 active electronically scanned array radar capable of delivering over 23,000 pounds of ordnance with a combat radius of nearly 800 miles. Losing one is significant not because of the cost, but because of the crew inside. Both crew members ejected successfully. The pilot seated in the front cockpit, and the Weapons Systems Officer, or WSO, seated in the rear. What happened next demonstrated the staggering gap between American and Iranian military capabilities. Within hours, the United States launched a full-scale combat search and rescue mission, CSAR, deep behind enemy lines. This was not a simple helicopter pickup. 3 of America's most elite special operations units were deployed simultaneously. Navy SEALs provided the tactical strike element. Green Berets coordinated ground operations and local intelligence. And Pararescue jumpers, the PJs, some of the most highly trained combat medics on the planet, handled extraction and emergency medical care. The pilot was recovered successfully. The WSO, however, could not be located. He is currently evading capture somewhere in the rugged terrain of southwestern Iran, relying on his SERE training survival evasion resistance and escape and his survival kit, which includes an encrypted AN/PRC 149 radio and a combat survivor evader locator beacon. Meanwhile, during the rescue operation, an A-10 Warthog providing close air support was hit by concentrated ground fire, likely a combination of massed infantry fire and shoulder-launched manpads, or man-portable air defense systems. The A-10 pilot executed a controlled ejection near the Strait of Hormuz and was quickly recovered by American forces. And this is where things take a very different turn. Because instead of responding with military action, the IRGC responded with propaganda. And it went catastrophically wrong. The first and most glaring failure is the fake imagery. Within hours of the shootdown, IRGC-affiliated media channels began circulating photographs of what they claimed was the wreckage of the downed American jet. The images showed burning debris scattered across rocky terrain, with IRGC soldiers posing triumphantly. It looked convincing for about 5 minutes. Then the international open-source intelligence community, known as OSINT, got to work. And what they found was devastating for Tehran. The aircraft in the images was clearly an F-16 Fighting Falcon, a single-engine, single-tail fighter. The F-15E Strike Eagle that was actually shot down is a twin-engine aircraft with distinctive twin vertical stabilizers. The difference is immediately obvious to anyone with even basic knowledge of military aviation. It is like posting a photo of a bicycle and claiming you destroyed a motorcycle. But it gets worse. Multiple OSINT analysts flagged telltale signs of AI-generated imagery. Unnatural lighting reflections on the fuselage, blurred details around the engine intakes, inconsistent shadow directions, and debris patterns that did not match real crash sites. The conclusion was clear: the IRGC fabricated these images because they could not reach the actual crash site. Think about what that means. Iran shot down an American aircraft over its own territory and could not even get to the wreckage to take a real photograph. That single fact tells us more about the state of Iranian ground control than any intelligence briefing could. And that is not even the worst part. The second failure is the bounty, and this one is arguably more damaging than the fake photos. When the IRGC realized it could not locate the missing WSO using its own military assets, it took an extraordinary step. It posted a public bounty of approximately $60,000 payable to any Iranian civilian who could capture or provide information leading to the capture of the American officer. Now, on the surface, this might sound aggressive. A government mobilizing its entire population to hunt down an enemy combatant. But when you peel back the layers, this is an admission of total failure. And it reveals at least 3 critical weaknesses that Tehran desperately wanted to keep hidden. First, Iran's intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance infrastructure, ISR, is either destroyed or completely suppressed. A functioning military with real capability would deploy reconnaissance drones like the Mohajer 6 or the Ababil series. It would use signal intelligence, or SIGINT, to intercept any radio transmissions from the downed airman's survival equipment. It would activate ground-based sensors and thermal imaging. Iran apparently did none of this, or attempted to, and failed, which is arguably worse. The American SEAD campaign's suppression of enemy air defenses has clearly not just knocked out radar installations. It has dismantled the entire surveillance chain. Second, Iranian ground forces cannot effectively search the area. This is Iranian territory. These are mountains and valleys that Iranian troops have trained in for decades. And yet they cannot find one man. This suggests troop morale, unit cohesion, and command and control have deteriorated far more than official statements admit. And third, the command structure is so fractured that military tasks are being outsourced to civilians. This is not a strategy. This is desperation dressed up as initiative. We will get to what this means for the broader conflict in a moment. But first, there is an even more revealing comparison to make. But before we get to that, this is a quick reminder that you are watching Hormuz Checkpoint. We bring you the full picture, not just the headlines. So hit subscribe to make sure you stay ahead of the curve. The third aspect of this story might be the most powerful illustration of the gap between these two militaries. And it is not about technology. It is about organizational competence. Consider what happened on the American side. Within hours of the shootdown, a fully integrated CSAR operation was launched. Navy SEALs, Green Berets, and Pararescue jumpers, 3 of the most elite units in the entire US military, were deployed deep into hostile territory. An HH-60W Jolly Green II, the Air Force's newest combat rescue helicopter, penetrated Iranian airspace. MQ-9 Reaper drones provided real-time surveillance overhead. RQ-4 Global Hawks scanned the region from 60,000 feet. Satellites, including KH-11 reconnaissance platforms, provided imagery updates. An RC-135 Rivet Joint Signals Intelligence aircraft monitored Iranian communications to ensure the rescue team was not walking into an ambush. The result? The pilot was extracted alive. Now consider the Iranian side. Iran wants to capture one American, and it posts a bounty. No drone surveillance. No special forces operation. No signals intelligence sweep. A cash reward for shepherds and farmers. The contrast is not just about equipment or budget. It is about the fundamental ability to organize, coordinate, and execute under pressure. The United States operates an integrated system where satellites, drones, encrypted communications. Special operators and command centers work as a single organism. Iran in its own country is reduced to crowdsourcing a military objective. One side sends its best warriors. The other side sends a wanted poster. And this contrast will not be lost on the rest of the world. The fourth and final dimension of this disaster is the long-term damage the IRGC has inflicted on its own credibility, and this may be the most strategically significant consequence of all. In modern information warfare, there is a concept analysts call the liar effect. Once a party is caught fabricating evidence, even once everything they say afterward is viewed through a lens of suspicion. The IRGC did not just make a small error. They posted AI-generated images of the wrong aircraft were caught within hours by the global OSINT community, and the debunking went viral. Bellingcat analysts documented the forgery. Major Western news outlets picked up the story. Accounts with hundreds of thousands of followers across multiple platforms dissected the fake imagery in detail. The damage is permanent. Every future IRGC claim, whether it involves downed drones, killed soldiers, captured territory, or destroyed equipment, will now be automatically questioned. Their propaganda machine, which was already struggling against the reality of 35 days of American air dominance, has lost whatever remaining credibility it had. Now compare this with how Washington handled the same event. The United States did not deny the shootdown. It did not minimize the losses. President Trump stated publicly that the incident would not affect negotiations with Iran, a signal of confidence, not panic. CENTCOM released factual updates about the rescue operation. No exaggerations. No fabricated imagery. No theatrical bounties. Just action and measured communication. In information warfare, the side that does not need to lie holds the stronger position. And this is where the historical parallel becomes impossible to ignore. In 2003, Mohammed Saeed al-Sahaf, better known as Baghdad Bob, stood in front of cameras and declared there were no American tanks in Baghdad, while M1 Abrams tanks rolled across the bridge behind him. He became a global symbol of delusional propaganda. The IRGC, with its AI-generated F-16 photos and its civilian bounty, is writing itself into that same chapter of history. And once you become the joke, you do not come back from it. So what does all of this mean for the broader trajectory of Operation Epic Fury? First, Iran is winning the propaganda war domestically. The average Iranian citizen may only see the triumphant IRGC press releases. But on the international stage, where alliances are forged, sanctions are decided, and military coalitions are sustained, Tehran is losing catastrophically. Every fake photo, every misidentified aircraft, and every crowdsourced bounty becomes evidence that the IRGC does not control the battle space, does not possess functioning intelligence capabilities, and is increasingly relying on desperate measures to compensate for collapsing military infrastructure. Second, this episode reveals something deeply troubling for Tehran about the state of its military after 35 days of sustained American air operations. If Iranian forces cannot conduct a basic ground search on their own territory, then their command structure, their reconnaissance capability, and their troop readiness are far more degraded than anyone publicly admits. The fact that Iran has reverted to asymmetric air defense tactics using manpads instead of integrated air defense systems, ambushes instead of network defense, tells us the conventional capability has already been neutralized. Iran is estimated to possess around 5,000 manpads units, including Russian Igla systems, domestically produced Missak-2 launchers, and Chinese QW-18 platforms. These have an effective range of 4 to 6 kilometers and a maximum engagement altitude of roughly 15,000 feet. They are dangerous against low-flying aircraft like the A-10, but they are guerrilla weapons, not the tools of a modern air defense network. Their use confirms that the integrated systems have been destroyed. And third, there is the WSO still out there, still evading. Every hour that passes without his capture is another humiliation for the IRGC and another testament to American training. That one officer equipped with a SERE survival kit, an encrypted radio, and a locator beacon has more operational capability than Iran's entire search apparatus. The United States does not need propaganda. It does not need AI-generated images. It does not need bounties. It acts quietly, precisely, and with devastating effectiveness. And that is the difference that no amount of money and no propaganda campaign can bridge. What comes next in this conflict could change everything. Find out more in our video on the next phase of Operation Epic Fury.